I've always prided myself on being observant. 5 years of marriage to Sarah had taught me to notice the small things. How she hummed while making coffee, the way she'd scrunch her nose when concentrating, the particular shade of lipstick she wore when she wanted to feel beautiful. But somehow, I'd missed the biggest thing of all. It was a Tuesday evening when my world cracked open like an egg hitting concrete. I'd cut my Dallas trip short by a day. The client meeting wrapped early, and I was exhausted from 3 straight days of presentations and handshakes. All I wanted was my own bed, my wife's arms, and maybe some of her famous lasagna. The house felt different when I walked in. Not wrong exactly, but charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. Sarah was in the shower. I could hear the water running upstairs, so I dropped my luggage in our bedroom and headed to the master bathroom to splash some water on my face. That's when I saw it. A used condom, knotted at the top, sitting in the small wastebasket beside the toilet, poorly hidden under a crumpled tissue. My mind went completely blank. Not angry, not hurt, just empty. We hadn't used protection since our 3rd date 5 years ago. Sarah had an IUD. We talked about starting a family soon, maybe next year when my territory was more established. I stood there for what felt like hours but was probably 30 seconds, staring at this piece of latex that had just detonated my entire life. The shower was still running. Sarah was humming, actually humming, some pop song I didn't recognize. The rational part of my brain started cataloging facts. I'd been gone since Sunday morning. It was Tuesday evening. The trash usually got emptied on Thursdays. Sarah was religious about that schedule. Someone had been in my house, in my bedroom, in my bed, with my wife. I heard the shower shut off. Without thinking, I flushed the toilet and ran the faucet, creating cover noise while I backed out of the bathroom. By the time Sarah emerged in her terry cloth robe, hair wrapped in a towel, I was sitting on the edge of our bed, scrolling through my phone like nothing had happened. "Baby, you're home early." She rushed over and kissed my cheek, leaving a damp spot from her hair. She smelled like her usual vanilla body wash, nothing different, nothing wrong. "How was Dallas?" "Fine, closed the King account," I replied, my voice sounding normal, steady. "Missed you." She smiled that radiant smile that had made me fall in love with her at a coffee shop 6 years ago. "I missed you too," she said warmly. "I was just going to order Chinese for dinner since I thought you'd be gone another night. Want me to cook something instead?" "Chinese sounds perfect," I answered. She bounced off to get her phone, and I sat there processing what had just happened. The old me would have confronted her immediately, would have dragged her back to the bathroom, pointed at the evidence, demanded explanations. But something cold and calculating had taken over my brain. If I accused her now, she'd cry, she'd apologize, she'd beg for forgiveness, or maybe even try to gaslight me, tell me it wasn't what it looked like, that she could explain. And then she'd lawyer up, play the victim, tell everyone how I was controlling and suspicious and probably abusive. In our state, she'd get half of everything I'd built. The house I'd saved for 3 years to buy, the business I'd grown from nothing, the life I'd worked 80-hour weeks to create. No, if Sarah wanted to play games, I'd play games, but I'd play to win. That night, lying next to her in bed, the same bed where she'd been with another man, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to forgive her. I was going to destroy her. But first, I needed proof. Real, hard, legally bulletproof proof. She slept peacefully beside me, her breathing soft and even. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, planning my next move. The next morning, Wednesday, I told Sarah I had another work trip scheduled, 4 days in Denver starting the following Friday. She pouted appropriately, told me she'd miss me, kissed me goodbye at the door. I watched her face carefully for any tell, any flicker of excitement about having the house to herself for 4 days. Nothing. She was either innocent or an incredible actress. I was betting on the latter. The next 11 days transformed me into someone I didn't recognize. By day, I was the same husband I'd always been, bringing Sarah coffee in bed, listening to her stories about her book club, planning our weekend activities. By night, I became a detective in my own life. I researched everything: surveillance equipment, divorce law in our state, asset protection strategies, hidden camera reviews on Amazon, the best private investigators, how to gather evidence that would hold up in court. I learned that our state wasn't no fault, adultery mattered. Proof mattered. The right kind of evidence could mean she'd walk away. With nothing, that realization hit me like lightning. Nothing. I consulted a lawyer, Stephen Baker, recommended by a colleague who'd been through his own messy divorce. I paid cash for the consultation on Thursday, told him I needed advice for a friend. Stephen was in his 50s, sharp as a knife, with the kind of cold eyes that had seen every variation of human betrayal. "Your friend needs video evidence," he said bluntly. "Audio is good but not always admissible. Video with clear faces, timestamps, obvious adultery, that's gold. Get that and she walks away with nothing but her clothes." I ordered 2 hidden cameras online, small, motion-activated, high definition. One disguised as a phone charger for the bedroom. Another built into a digital picture frame for the living room. Professional grade, lawyer recommended. When they arrived on Monday, I tested them obsessively. The quality was stunning, crystal clear, even in low light. Installing them was easier than I'd expected. Sarah had her yoga class on Wednesday mornings, never missed it, gone for exactly 90 minutes. I positioned the bedroom camera perfectly, angled to capture the entire bed. The living room camera went on the mantel, looking like just another family photo in its innocent frame. But the cameras weren't enough. I needed more. One night Thursday, while Sarah slept beside me, I checked her phone. She'd gotten sloppy, no passcode change, same birthday pin she'd used for years. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through her messages, but my face stayed blank. There he was, Jake flexed biceps in her contacts. Months of messages, starting back in January, innocent enough at first. Gym schedules, workout tips, but they'd escalated. Late-night texts, compliments about her form, questions about her marriage, her happiness. His suggestion to grab coffee sometime when she mentioned I was traveling. The recent messages made my stomach turn. "Can't wait for Friday," face blowing a kiss. "He'll be gone all weekend. Just like last time, but longer. I'll bring wine, can't stop thinking about Tuesday." Tuesday, the day I'd found the protection, 3 days ago. I screenshotted everything, backed it up to a cloud drive she didn't know about, then deleted the screenshots from her phone. She never stirred. The final piece fell into place when I saw his profile picture clearly. Jake Foster, 34, personal trainer at her gym. Ruggedly handsome in that obvious way, all muscles and arrogant grins. I memorized his face, his schedule, his social media posts. Know your enemy. Friday morning arrived like Judgment Day. I packed my bag carefully, made sure everything looked normal. Sarah made me breakfast, pancakes, my favorite, and walked me to the car. "Drive safe, baby. Text me when you land," she said, kissing my forehead. "I always do," I replied. "Love you." "Love you too," she responded. I drove toward the airport, but at the last exit I turned north instead, toward her parents' house 3 hours away. Robert and Linda needed to know what their daughter had become. More importantly, I needed witnesses, allies, people who couldn't be swayed by her tears and lies when this all came crashing down. The cameras were recording. My phone was tracking the feeds. And somewhere behind me, Sarah was probably already texting Jake that the coast was clear. Game on. What? Robert and Linda Mitchell lived in Millfield, a small town where everyone knew everyone and secrets didn't stay buried long. Robert was old school, a retired contractor who believed in hard work, loyalty, and handling your problems like a man. Linda was the epitome of Midwestern kindness, the type who brought casseroles to sick neighbors and never missed church on Sunday. They'd raised Sarah right, or tried to. That's what made this whole situation so devastating. I'd always gotten along with them. Robert respected me because I worked hard and took care of his daughter. He'd helped me pick out Sarah's engagement ring, shared beers with me during family barbecues, even taught me how to fix the garbage disposal last Christmas. Linda treated me like a son, always asking about my work trips, making sure I was eating enough. When I showed up unannounced at 2:30 on Friday afternoon, they were surprised but happy to see me. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," Robert grinned from his workshop in the garage. "Thought you were supposed to be in Denver." "Change of plans," I replied, trying to smile, but it felt like plastic. "Can we sit down? I need to talk to you both." Linda appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Of course, honey, everything all right?" she asked with concern. You look terrible." We sat at their kitchen table, the same table where Sarah and I had announced our engagement 4 years ago. My hands were steady as I pulled out my phone, but my voice cracked when I started speaking. "I need to show you both something about Sarah, and I need you to hear it from me, not from her," I said carefully. The color dry. In Ed from Linda's face, Robert's expression hardened. I told them everything. The text messages, the months of lies, the cameras I'd installed, the lawyer I'd consulted. I showed them screenshots of the messages between Sarah and Jake, watching Linda's hand fly to her mouth and Robert's jaw clench tighter with each revelation. "That's my daughter," Robert said quietly when I finished. His voice was controlled, but I could see the rage building behind his eyes. "I raised her better than this." Linda was crying silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Are you absolutely sure?" she asked desperately. "Maybe there's an explanation." "I'm sure," I answered firmly. "And tonight you're going to see it for yourselves." Robert looked at me hard. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "I need witnesses, people she can't lie to or manipulate. When this all comes out, she's going to spin a story. She's going to paint me as the bad guy. But if you see it happen, if you witness her betrayal firsthand." I let the implication hang. "You want us to watch our daughter?" Linda couldn't finish the sentence. "I want you to see who she really is," I replied. We waited. The kitchen clock ticked loudly as I monitored the camera feeds from my laptop. Linda made coffee nobody touched. Robert paced between the kitchen and living room, fists clenching and unclenching. At 6:47 p.m., the bedroom camera detected motion. Sarah was changing clothes, putting on a red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. She was doing her makeup carefully, spritzing perfume, changing the sheets on our bed. "She's getting ready," I said quietly. At 7:23 p.m., the doorbell camera I'd installed the previous week caught him arriving. Jake Foster in the flesh, 6'2", muscular, carrying a bottle of wine and flowers. My flowers from my garden. "Jesus Christ," Robert muttered. The living room feed showed them embracing in my entryway, kissing like lovers who'd been apart for months instead of days. She led him to my kitchen, poured him my beer, laughed at his jokes. They moved to the couch, my couch, where he pulled her close and she melted into his arms like she belonged there. Linda was sobbing openly now. "That's not my daughter," she whispered. "That's not the girl I raised." But it was. This was Sarah without her mask, without her performance. This was who she really was when she thought nobody was watching. At 8:15 p.m., they headed upstairs. Robert grabbed his keys. "Let's go," he said grimly. The drive back to my house was silent except for Linda's quiet crying in the backseat. I watched the bedroom camera feed on my phone as Robert drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. By the time we pulled into my driveway at 8:41 p.m., clothes were scattered across my bedroom floor, and my wife was in bed with another man. "You recording this?" Robert asked as we got out of the car. "Every second," I confirmed. He nodded grimly. "Good. She's going to need to see exactly who she's become." I used my key to unlock the front door as quietly as possible. The house was warm, filled with the soft sounds of jazz music from the bedroom stereo and muffled voices upstairs. Robert followed close behind me, his breathing controlled but heavy. We could hear them clearly now, Sarah's laughter, Jake's deep voice, the unmistakable sounds of intimacy. I pulled out my phone and started recording, my hands surprisingly steady. This was it, the moment that would change everything. We climbed the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. The bedroom door was half open, light spilling into the hallway. Through the gap I could see movement, shadows dancing on the wall. My wife, my bed, my house. I took a deep breath and kicked the door open. Sarah's scream pierced the air like a fire alarm. She scrambled for the sheets, her face cycling through shock, terror, and something approaching disbelief. Jake froze completely, naked and vulnerable, his confident gym trainer persona evaporating instantly. "What the hell?" he started. "Don't," I said, my voice deadly calm. "Don't say a word." I held up my phone, recording everything. "Say hi to the camera, Sarah." She was hyperventilating now, clutching the sheet to her chest. "This isn't, you weren't supposed to be, how did you?" she stammered. "I wasn't supposed to be home," I asked, stepping into the room, still filming. In my own house, in my own bedroom. That's when Robert appeared in the doorway behind me. Sarah's face went completely white. "Dad," she whispered. Robert's voice was low and shaking with barely controlled rage. "Get dressed, right now," he commanded. Jake tried to speak, tried to explain. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married, I swear," he pleaded. "Shut your mouth," Robert snapped. "You're in my son-in-law's house in his bed with my daughter. You think I give a damn what you knew?" I continued recording as Jake scrambled for his clothes, his hands shaking. Sarah just sat there, paralyzed, the reality of the situation crashing over her like a tidal wave. "I found the protection 2 weeks ago," I said conversationally, as if we were discussing the weather. "Been watching you since then. I have everything, every text message, every lie, every time you brought him here." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. No words came. Jake managed to get his pants on and was reaching for his shirt when Robert moved. Fast. He grabbed Jake by the arm and yanked him toward the bedroom door. Jake stumbled, half-dressed, off balance. "Dad, don't," Sarah started. "You lost the right to call me that about 3 months ago," Robert snarled in response. He dragged Jake down the hallway toward the stairs. I followed with my phone, capturing every second. Jake tried to pull away, tried to reason with Robert, but 66 years of construction work had made my father-in-law stronger than he looked. At the top of the stairs, Robert shoved Jake hard. Jake hit the wall, bounced off, stumbled down 3 steps before catching himself. Robert's fist connected with his jaw, a solid right hook that sent Jake crashing into the banister. "That's for disrespecting my family," Robert growled. Jake tried to cover up, blood flowing from his nose. Robert hit him again, this time in the ribs. Jake gasped, doubled over. "And that's for being stupid enough to come back," Robert added. I didn't intervene. I should have, maybe. But watching this man get what he deserved felt like the first thing that had made sense in 2 weeks. We dragged Jake to the front door. He was crying now, actually crying, mumbling apologies and excuses. Robert kicked him hard in the lower back as we threw him onto the front lawn. "Don't ever come back," I said simply. "If I see you again, if I even hear your name, I'll make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what you are." Jake scrambled to his car, leaving a trail of blood drops on my driveway. His engine started with a roar, and he sped away into the night. Back inside, Sarah was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, sitting on the edge of the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Linda had arrived and was standing in the doorway, her own tears falling silently. "Please," Sarah whispered when she saw me. "I can explain. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Like what?" I asked coldly. "You weren't supposed to get caught." She looked to her father desperately. "Daddy, please," she begged. "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Robert looked at her with pure disgust. "Sorry doesn't fix this," he replied. He stepped forward and slapped her. Hard, the sound echoed in the room like a gunshot. Sarah fell back onto the bed, holding her cheek, staring at her father in shock. "You disgraced yourself," he said quietly. "You disgraced your mother and me. You disgraced this man who gave you everything. And for what? Some pretty boy who'll forget your name by next week." I pulled out my suitcase and set it on the dresser. "You have 1 hour to pack whatever you can carry, then you're gone," I declared. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked desperately. "I don't care," I answered. She looked at her parents one more time. Linda was still crying but wouldn't meet her daughter's eyes. Robert's face could have been carved from stone. 1 hour, I repeated. The trap had sprung perfectly. Now came the fallout. Sarah tried calling her parents that Friday night from whatever hotel she'd found. They didn't answer. She tried again Saturday morning. And Sunday. On Monday, she showed up at their house in Millfield, desperate and disheveled. Robert met her at the door. "Daddy, please," she pleaded. "I need help. I don't have anywhere else to go." "Should have thought about that before you decided to be a cheating witch," he replied coldly. The word hit her like a physical blow. Robert had never talked to her like that in her entire life. "I just need a place to stay until I can figure things out. Please," she begged. "You're not welcome here," he stated firmly. He started to close the door, then stopped. "Your mother wants me to tell you she's praying for you, but prayer doesn't fix stupid, Sarah. You made your choice. The door closed in her face. Linda watched from the kitchen window, crying, but she didn't intervene. The following Monday, exactly 1 week after I'd caught them, I filed for divorce. My lawyer, Stephen Baker, was like a shark who'd smelled blood in the water. He sent Sarah the papers along with a USB drive containing every video, every screenshot, every piece of evidence we'd gathered. Her lawyer took one look at the evidence and told her the truth. She had no case. Zero leverage. In our state, adultery voided any claim to spousal support. She'd contributed no income to our marriage. The house was in my name, purchased before we married. The cars were in my name. Her name wasn't on any of our accounts. She was going to walk away with nothing. Jake blocked her number after my lawyer sent him a cease and desist letter on Wednesday. Turns out he was married too. His wife found out about Sarah and kicked him out. He wanted nothing to do with the mess he'd helped create. Word spread fast in our social circle. Sarah tried reaching out to friends, but most had already chosen sides. The wife who cheated on the good husband. The woman who betrayed the man who'd given her everything. In a community where appearances mattered, Sarah had become toxic. She moved into a studio apartment across town, the cheapest thing she could find. Got a job waiting tables at a chain restaurant, working nights and weekends. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd tried writing me letters, leaving voicemails, even showing up at my office building once. I blocked her completely, changed my number, hired building security to keep her away from my workplace. The divorce finalized 3 months later, 93 days total. Irreconcilable differences and adultery. She got nothing. No assets, no alimony, no settlement. Just the clothes she'd packed that Friday night and whatever furniture she could afford on a waitress's salary. Her parents never spoke to her again. Linda died 8 months later, a heart attack, but Robert blamed Sarah's betrayal for the stress that killed his wife. Sarah wasn't welcome at the funeral. The house felt strange for a while, too quiet. I repainted the bedroom, bought a new bed, replaced the sheets and curtains, sold her car, deleted every photo of her from my phone and computer. I started dating again after 6 months. Nothing serious, just dinner and movies with women who didn't know my story. It felt good to remember that not everyone was a liar. People sometimes asked if I regretted how hard I'd come down on Sarah, if I thought I'd been too cruel, too calculating. I never answered those questions. I didn't owe anyone an explanation for protecting myself from a woman who'd thrown away 5 years of marriage for cheap thrills. Sarah made her choice. I just made sure she lived with the consequences. It's been 18 months now since that Tuesday when I found the truth. I'm sitting in my kitchen, drinking my morning coffee and reading the news on my tablet. The house is quiet, but it's a good quiet now. Peaceful instead of empty. I don't think about Sarah every day anymore. Maybe once a week, usually when something reminds me, a song on the radio, a couple holding hands at the grocery store, the anniversary date of our wedding passing by unnoticed. But the thoughts don't hurt now. They're just memories, like remembering a movie I watched years ago. Last month, I heard through a friend of a friend that she's still working at that restaurant, still living in the studio apartment, still alone. I don't feel victorious about it. I don't feel vindicated. I just feel nothing. And that's exactly right. People used to ask me if I'd ever forgive her, if I'd consider taking her back if she begged hard enough. The question always confused me. Forgiveness implies that someone deserves a second chance, that their betrayal was an accident, a mistake, a moment of weakness. But Sarah's affair wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Hundreds of choices made over months, each one a deliberate act of betrayal. You don't accidentally delete text messages. You don't accidentally lie about where you've been. You don't accidentally bring another man into your husband's bed. I've been seeing someone new for the past 3 months. Jennifer. She's a teacher, divorced, has 2 kids. She's kind and honest and asks direct questions when something bothers her. We take things slow, building trust one conversation at a time. The difference is striking. With Sarah, I realize now I was always performing, being the perfect husband, the successful provider, the man who deserved loyalty. With Jennifer, I'm just myself. Flawed, careful, protective of my heart, but willing to risk it again for the right person. I got a promotion at work, bought a new truck, started going to the gym. Life moves forward. The house is mine now. really mine. No ghosts, no bad memories, no shadows of betrayal. I've made it into something new, a place where trust matters, where honesty is the foundation, where love is earned and respected. And Sarah is a lesson I learned. Nothing more, nothing less. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate or dramatic. Sometimes it's just living well while the person who betrayed you lives with the choices they made. That's justice, that's peace, that's enough. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.